Well, the world can probably learn a lot about a country like Iceland, from the way it effectively responds to natural occurrences like volcanic eruptions to its focus on green energy, and maybe even a pop culture exports like the rock band Sigur Rós. And a best-selling book is also suggesting we pay attention to the northern countries' women and how they are impacting the world. Eliza Reid, the First Lady of Iceland, joins us now to talk a little bit about this book, The Secrets of Sprakkar.
Very good.
There we go. So first and foremost, what does that word mean?
It's an old Icelandic word that means extraordinary women. And I can't think of any words we have in English that describe exclusively women in an exclusively positive way. So this is my Icelandic contribution to the English language.
You are Canadian.
I am.
But you made your way to Iceland from the Ottawa area, Oxford University, I believe, before making your way to Iceland. When you made that transition and that journey into that country, what did you first notice?
That it was colder than I was used to. You know, one of the first things, as it relates at least to the position of women in the country, is really how prominent women are in many of the public facets of society. For example, we now almost have 50% representation in Parliament, and you really see that difference. And there's a story that I recount at the very beginning of this book where I was working for a small tech industry startup 20 years ago now, and the chair of the board of the company was a woman, and I walked by them holding their meeting, and she was nursing her baby because she had a new baby, and nobody cared. Nobody blinked an eye, and nobody kind of tried to look away awkwardly. It was just a completely natural thing. And even though I was in my 20s and kids weren't on my radar at that stage, it was something that really stuck with me, and I thought, this is going to be an okay country to live in.
Was it shocking for you to see that? And were there other examples that perhaps started to become that much more noticeable?
I wouldn't say it was shocking. I mean, I thought it was unusual because I thought that it wasn't the kind of thing that you see all over the place in other places. But I liked that sort of acceptability of how people were performing a completely natural function in that way. And I think it was just, as you said, you know, I say often it's like we've passed the tipping point in Iceland about debating whether or not striving for equality in this way is important, but how we're going to get there.
Have you determined at this point, because you've been there how long?
21 years.
21 years. So there has to be reasons why the culture and society there is different from perhaps anywhere else in the world. Have you figured out why that is?
I mean, it's kind of the $1,000 question. Is it the $1 million question? I think there's a lot of things that we know that more gender equal countries have peaceful, happier, longer living populations for people of all genders. So one would think that it's a good aspiration for people who want to work to create better societies. And we're a small society in Iceland, so we need to wear a lot of hats. We need to really engage people in as many facets of society as possible. But I think it's also important to keep in mind that that doesn't happen of its own accord. It doesn't happen by ticking a box or saying, we agree with this approach and let's just see it happen and sort of taking a hands-off approach. But really both implementing policies, but just implementing a society that has gender equality as a core value.
You've been able to provide an example in your role as First Lady over your time in doing so. How have you gone about providing that example and showing people this is how it's done?
Well, you know, I'm the female spouse of a male head of state, and I think that we have some stereotypes about what the spouses do or don't do. You know that and I say in maybe a cynical way that they're kind of well-dressed accessories to, promote their husband's genius. And I thought, I have this special and unique opportunity that I never expected I would get in life, and I can either use that opportunity or squander it. And so I speak up a lot, and I try to confound those expectations to know that we need to hear a diversity of voices in society, and I have a voice. And even though I have a platform because of something my husband achieved, I might as well use that platform. And I would add as well, in a more broadly diverse sense, that in Iceland, that voice has an accent. I've learned the Icelandic language as an adult, and I make mistakes. And that's also really important for people to see that even though I speak the language imperfectly with an accent, that I still have something to say.
And you've done it quite well with this book. In
Thank
fact, in making reference to the fact that you're not just a handbag
yes.
to your husband in doing so. I wanted to ask you really quickly, because you are here back in Canada,
yeah.
Can you make a comparison at this point? We're known as a fairly progressive country, but
absolutely.
Maybe not that progressive.
Well, I hope so. I think maybe the one thing would be to remind us all that each and every one of us is a role model and has an influence. So it's one thing to say, okay, politicians have budgets and priorities and will enact laws, and we can vote for people who we think support, reflect our own values there. That's well and good. But that's maybe too downstream as well. We can't just leave it up to elected politicians or the people with the budgets. We have to enact these values in our day-to-day lives, and we need to remind ourselves that we all have a voice and a role to play. And I hope there's stories of about 40 different women in this book who are just regular women in different areas of society, and I hope that inspires all of us to show what we can be doing in our own circles to help to create a better world.
Inspiration not just for women,
No.
for men as well. We appreciate
Absolutely.
you being here, Eliza Reid, The Secrets of
Sprakkar.
Sprakkar. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much.